Hello everyone, back to you into today's video. Going to have a look at when it's week to 10 days first in today's video. Then we'll have a look at the CFS B2 for the next month, which takes us into September. So it looks as though we're going to be seeing some hot conditions through the remainder of this week. A little bit cooler on Friday, but still very warm. But another push of heat possible on Saturday before a definitive change to something significantly cooler takes place into the second half of the weekend. So Sunday, Monday, bank holiday Monday, of course, for England and Wales. It will turn cooler and fresher then. And these cooler conditions may well take us through the remainder of August and into the start of September, and possibly increasingly changeable as well. So if you enjoy the summer heat, then make most of the next few days. Could be the message, because it may well be that by the weekend, summer could be starting to drain away. I'll show you the charts in a second. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse of widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. And thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages, which open our content. When you watch them, they close back up again. Does all help to pay for gaswebbies.com. So before we just start off Central England temperature, we've got a week left for August, of course, and the CET currently provisionally stands at 16.9, which is an anomaly of 1 degree above average. That's provisional up to yesterday, 22nd of August. So another warmer than average month seems certain. How warm it's going to be remains to be seen. I would think it's going to be somewhere in below 17 Celsius. Could well be the warmest month of the summer, by the way, because July came in at 16.9 and June at 15.2. I think we could beat that for August, possibly somewhere in the low 17 Celsius. And it's been a pretty warm summer, you have to say. All summer months coming out around a degree above average. August could be around a degree and a half above average. So it has been a pretty decent summer down across England and Wales. It's not been as good for Scotland and Northern Ireland. It has been cooler there. But you wouldn't say it's been a classic summer, but certainly it's been warmer than average, and one of the better summers that we've had, I think, over the past few years down in the south. So we're going to keep quite a bit of warm weather going over the next few days, and we can see this with the thickness chart. So this red line here, it's almost lemon coloured, I should say, lemon coloured line, is that is the 564 line, and when you have that, basically you're within summer type conditions, so the temperatures will be going into a summer type level. Now this green line up here, that essentially is autumn. When that green line sinks down across the country, you'll know that we are within cool air, within autumnal air, and this blue line right up over the top of the North Pole, that is winter. It's right over top of the North Pole at the moment, but it will expand over the next few weeks and months, and eventually that 528 line, the blue line, will come down into Europe and into North America as well. But at the moment, summer clings on with this lemon coloured line. However, in a few days' time, we start to see that moving away to the south of us. So that could well be the end of high summer. Anyway, of course, it can still get very warm into September and even into October. Can have very warm weather, but we may not. Never can tell really, but we may not have this 564 line back with us again until sort of next summer. And notice the green line, which is very much where autumn is. Behind this line is autumn lurking. That is getting ever closer to us. In fact, the 548 line, the green line, is beginning to move in towards Scotland by the end of August. So it's all indicative of the fact that at the moment summer is hanging on. But as we get through into next week particularly, we might find that summer begins just drain away, and it may come back. You can never tell. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we just have to wait and see. These are the upper air temperatures. They show the decline in temperature quite well. So the red line here on the ensemble is a 30-year temperature average. See how warm it's going to be over the next few days into the second half of the week and into the weekend. Very warm, if not hot, down in the south of the country. We have another little peak of heat on Saturday. So as I say, we've got hot weather coming up for the next couple of days. Turns a bit cooler there, but still warm, very warm on Friday. And then Saturday, we're getting another little peak of heat coming along. But after that, it is very much down with the temperatures back to the 30-year average. I mean, you see, there's no real indication that it gets hot again. There's quite a lot of scatter there within the ensemble in the second half of the graph, but there's no real indication that it's getting hot once again. Certainly not in a reliable sense. There are a few members of the ensemble that do go quite hot again into the start of September, but they're really outliers, and there's as many that are quite cool within this. So I think we can say that as we go through to the start of September, it's likely to be cooler, certainly compared to what we've got coming up over the next few days. Rainfall coming back as well, so the next few days, quite a lot of dry weather coming up into weekend, though, and inside of next week, precipitation spikes returning. Does look like it's getting increasingly unsettled through to the very end of August and the start of September. That's the ensemble for London. This is for Manchester. You see more rainfall spikes there, even some through the rest of this week and into the weekend, and then big rainfall spikes through into the start of next week as well. Notice the decline in temperature over weekend back to the 30-year temperature average. So here's the GFS then for Saturday. We've got that final burst of heat pushing northwards on Saturday, although low pressure is developing out to the south and the west. That is cut off by low pressure. The heat is cut off by low pressure on Sunday, moving in from the west, probably taking a lot of heavy rain, maybe thunderstorms to the north and the east of the country, and then introducing a cooler, fresher air off the Atlantic. By the way, we'll be having a look at storm watch later on today to see what the thundery potential is with these high temperatures over the next few days. So come back to that probably later on this afternoon. Through into Monday, it's your bank holiday Monday. Looks unsettled. Low pressure is anchored across Scotland. That's probably bringing outbreaks of rain for them, because it's not a bank holiday in Scotland. But further south, I would have thought it's likely to be showery. And certainly it's turning cooler. In front of the isobars back, the air is coming down from the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Into next week then, Tuesday, we put a little bit of a transient ridge in from the southwest, although low pressure is developing out to the west again, and that low pressure runs through into the country into Wednesday, 31st of August. Notice this very dramatic looking area of low pressure on the far left-hand side of the chart. As you're looking at it, that is the remains of Hurricane Gaston, and the models are very, very keen to move this into the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean through the early part of September, through the first week of September. Models are very keen to move this deep storm into the northern Atlantic and then gradually move it our way. So this is day 10, Friday, 2nd of September, with low pressure over country, and there's that intense storm, the central part of the Atlantic. If we just follow on a little bit, we can see that that low pressure is moved in, not as a storm, but as quite a deep area of low pressure, certainly bringing a lot of heavy rain across the country through the weekend of the 3rd and the 4th of September. These are very changeable charts that we're seeing at the moment from the GFS model for early September. Quite unusual, because it tends to be a time of high pressure in early September. So a little bit against the norm what the GFS is doing for early September. Have to wait and see. It could be going over the top with that. And of course, when you've got such a deep storm system as this system moving into the northern Atlantic, the way that is modelled is going to be very uncertain. The models are going to struggle with such a deep system. I think the central pressure of that is probably around 970, 960 millibars, something like that. So it's a very intense storm moving into the northern Atlantic off the eastern seaboard of the United States at the very end of August, inside of September. And quite how the models react to that is going to be really difficult for them to place the exact movement. So it's going to be a case of keep an eye on what that's doing during the first week of September. That's the GFS, it's the E70F, and we see that on Saturday, again, we're pulling up some quite hot air from the south. I think we'll well be back up to 30 degrees to start the bank holiday weekend, but as we go into Sunday, low pressure starts to move in from the south and west, probably bringing quite a bit of rain, particularly to the northern part of the country. It's bank holiday Monday, where it looks unsettled, certainly for the north, probably less so for the south. We go into the start of next week then. This is Tuesday the 30th. And we're in a flat westerly, southwesterly flow then. Still high pressure trying to cling on to the south on Wednesday the 31st of August. This area of low pressure a little bit further north compared to where the GFS has it. Again, there's that really intense storm, which is the remains of Hurricane Gaston going into the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean on Wednesday the 31st of August. And then as we run up to day 10, which is Friday the 2nd of August, still have high pressure closer. So the E70F is much less unsettled compared to the GFS. The GFS is really unsettled, and even before this ex-hurricane gets going, the GFS is very unsettled. The ECM is much less unsettled. It has this ridge staying very close to us through next week. I think the days are numbered for this ridge. If we could roll on another 24 hours, I think we'd see this low pressure coming in from the Atlantic for the weekend of the 3rd and 4th of September. Give quite a lot of heavy rain. So I think the days for that high pressure would be numbered. But it is up to day 10, a little bit more settled from the E70F compared to the GFS. Finally, having a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. So first weekly period takes us from the 23rd through 29th of August. So the week that we are currently in. We've got a ridge of above average heights to the east of us. Low pressure is in the Atlantic. The jet stream will be doing something a bit like that. So that's significantly warm. Again, we're pulling up the air from the south, southeast with that. So a lot of warm weather, certainly up to the early part of the weekend. We go through to week 2, which is the 30th of August through to 5th of September. And again, much more unsettled then. Low pressure, trough of below average heights to the west of us. Ridge down to the southwest and a long way to the east, which essentially places us in a westerly flow. That does look significantly more unsettled, especially to the north and west, cooler as well. Week 3, which is the 6th through to 12th of September, places below average heights generally over to the west of the country. Again, the jet stream doing something like that. So it does look fairly unsettled. Quite cool as well, I would have thought, because the air coming around an area of low pressure is actually coming from the northern part of the Atlantic, somewhere up here. So not overly warm and quite unsettled through that first part of September. But week 4, which is the 13th through to the 19th, starts to build in above average heights to the north and the east again, which what that would do is push the jet stream through, something like that. And that could turn warmer. Probably not as warm or as hot as the weather that we've got coming up in the next few days, because it's into the middle part of September. It's going to be very hard to drag the hot air up out of Spain and the Mediterranean, the hottest air out of the Spain and Mediterranean through the middle part of September. But nevertheless, that could still be quite warm. It could still be temperatures into the low to mid-20s Celsius. And maybe another spell of summery weather coming up through the middle part of September. That's a long way off, and I wouldn't worry too much about what's going on there. In terms of whether it's settled or unsettled. But to come back to the nearer time frame, next week to 10 days, we've got the heat coming up through the rest of this week. It looks like it's going to cool down a bit on Friday, but it gets hot again on Saturday. After that, I think we push the Atlantic through. It turns a lot cooler for the second half of the weekend. Possibly some thunder during that transition. We'll look at Stormwatch later. And then as we go through into next week, it's a bit of uncertainty between the GFS and the ECM, but I think probably turning with time cooler and more unsettled through next week. The first weekend of September, have to be watching for where ex-Hurricane Gaston is going. Right, that's all for now. I'll come back later on for Stormwatch. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.